All right, next question is from Julie Allman. She says, "Hi, Andy and the whole Serve team. My 14-year-old daughter saw you were doing this and really wanted me to share the following question in her own words. She has played tennis year-round for about 3 years and does junior team tennis and L7 tournaments. She gets super frustrated because she plays really well in clinics, but struggles to close out points when she competes. Here is the daughter's question. How do you keep nerves from affecting your play, especially when people are watching? I let nerves get to my head and try and do too much with my shots, resulting in me eventually giving away the match."
Yep. So this at every level, every single level is a big deal. And one, don't treat nerves like they're the ender. Everybody is nervous. Everybody. Sinner's nervous. He doesn't look it. We're all nervous all the time. So don't treat don't treat nerves as if it's like a cuss word, right? We need to acknowledge it before we can improve upon it. I'm nervous. Let's take some deep breaths. I can play great today. All of those things, they matter. I'm big on rituals, right? So all of these things you can't control. Who's watching? Your heartbeat all of a sudden becomes faster. Let's go to the towel. Let's reset each time. There's little control mechanisms between points where it's like, let's create a ritual set where when things feel like they're getting out of control, I know that I can control this 22 seconds but between points. Also, it's some people go more aggressive when they're nervous. I tend to say, hey, listen, let's keep taking aggressive swings, but let's take them to bigger parts of the court. This is the old Anacone thing, right? He preaches this. So instead of going for lines, when you're getting a little shifty, let's take bigger swings to bigger parts of the court. I always shifted to, okay, if I'm nervous, your footwork is the first thing to go. All of a sudden, instead of those quick light steps that create a little bit of rhythm and you kind of get that ebb and flow, it gets locked in cement, right? So make sure that your feet feel light. Make sure that your breath is still going, whether that's a grunt, whether it's a hard breath. You don't want the, like you see in club tennis where it's like you kind of have that halted breath. So ritual, find your breath, find your footwork, aggressive swings, make sure that pinky's a little loose so you're not giving it the death grip. Go to bigger parts of the court. Instead of, getting mad at people watching, just ignore them. Focus your eye glance. If it's your mother, if it's a coach, if it's a friend that you feel comfortable with, find that one person who you actually like the look on their face when they're watching you.
That's good. Let me ask you, was there, that's really good advice that I think people at, my level and that's would help recreational players too. Was there one thing that you ever could pinpoint that triggered your nerves that was sort of beyond just competition and scoreboards and fans? Was there, did you ever sort of dig down and say, is there one specific trigger that's making me nervous?
Yeah, mine was more like if I didn't feel, when I was really prepared, really fit, had put in the work, I always felt pretty good. I was more nervous for, sometime the US Open ain't moving dates. So if your injury isn't great going in, you kind of just have to deal with it sometimes. And it's that offset between I can't push too hard. Maybe I don't know if I can play a 4 or 5 setter. So when I was kind of unprepared, I would get more nervous in a first or second round. By the time I'd gotten to like quarters, semis, I would be nervous still. I was always nervous before every match. The biggest duds I ever played in my life were ones where I was worn down and cared less, right? Like when I had nerves, I was like, okay, the upside, I felt like for me to play my best, I had to be a little jittery, and then adrenaline kicks in, and then maybe you can find that second level. For me, it was just a lack of preparation. I remember playing one of the matches I remember being the most nervous ever, and I had been in that situation 17 million times. I lost second round of Wimbledon one year to Tipsarevic in 2008, and I was coming back from a shoulder injury, couldn't put in the time. I knew I wasn't that fit, and I felt like I was going to vomit every time I had to serve, which was like insane for me at that moment in time because I'd already played in, a bunch of Grand Slam finals and Wimbledon second rounds. So for me, it was more about preparation. And the other side of that was I knew if I was fit, even if I wasn't playing great, I could run balls down, put them in the court, use my legs, find the biggest parts of the court while actually still defending. But I mean, we were talking with, Lindsay Davenport, way better than I could ever be as a tennis player, but she got bothered by the amount of people in the stands. I never once thought about that. That didn't bother me. I was too busy freaking out about my own game. Whereas, Lindsay's game was great. And so she found other things to freak out about, apparently. But it's there's just tell your daughter, and hopefully she's listening. There's not a player on earth that doesn't deal with nerves. She is not strange because of it. A lot of players feel comfortable in practice. You'll hear pro players say, I've been practicing well, but that's good, but it's not the ultimate predictor of how you're going to feel once you play matches. And also, if you find yourself playing matches once a month, play more. The more you're exposed to tournaments and those uncomfortable situations, the easier it gets, right? The more you do something, more immune you become to the scariest parts of that thing.
All right, let's keep it rolling. Next up, we got a question from Henry. Andy, you've spoken about how the game has evolved with former players like Darren Cahill and Andre Agassi. How do you think tennis will evolve on the men's side in the next 20 years since Alcaraz and Sinner are such complete players?
I'm still waiting for the serve bot that's as fast as Alcaraz. Like, at some point, and it's kind of where it's going. Everyone's, Alcaraz is the outlier to the trend of everyone being taller and still being able to move. He's not a hugely tall person, but he's like the fastest person we've ever seen and like the most athletic body we've ever seen. So there's like, it has to be like almost like a generational offset for the trend being bigger, stronger, faster, fitter. Whereas if you were 6'7" back in the day, it probably meant you couldn't get in and out of the corners as well. So you were kind of full speed ahead towards the net and just make yourself, big and weird looking at the net. So I don't know. Are we going to have eventually someone who's as tall as Isner, but can move as well as Sinner? I would have said that's almost impossible 3 or 4 years ago. And now I just don't know. But maybe we get that person like LeBron who's bigger than Karl Malone, but also runs faster than, a point guard in the 90s. So maybe we're waiting for that kind of level of physicality where I can serve like Isner, but I can move like Alcaraz. I don't know. It's what I'm seeing now is just absurd.
No. I mean, this is the beauty of sports, right? I mean, who could play basketball at a higher level than Michael Jordan? And then here comes Kobe and LeBron, and we've got your tennis example. We've got Wemby, who's 7'3" and can dribble and shoot threes. What about do you see anything coming on the technology front? I mean, I guess I don't know if Luxilon did Luxilon sneak up on people, or were people murmuring that, hey, there's this cheat string that holds the ball and is going to completely change tennis? I mean, do you see anything coming?
I think there are versions. I think you're not seeing a ton of the old school, like really, really thin frames that people needed for gut to kind of control it. You're not seeing the thin Sampras frame, right, where it's like this big, or like the old Prince graphite, and then cinching it up at like 80 pounds, where it's like a brick. People are going looser. The wide body frames seem to be taking over because everyone can control the power of the wide body frame with the Lux. So you're almost like seeing a combination of factors going on. I don't know of anything past that, but also listen, these the racket Rons at Wilson and everyone else whose job is to kind of peek around the corners. There will be more, and as the players become bigger, stronger, faster, they're going to be able to control what they couldn't control in the 80s, 90s with gut. Like, you can't create the spin profile that you're creating today with gut. You can't take full swings on returns unless you're like Andre Agassi with full gut, right? So we're just going to get more and more. There's going to be more ball control with more power, and it's just bananas like what we've been seeing recently.
Right. And it's great. It's great, right? I mean, I think we should take a step back when we have these discussions and 4 minute mile used to be this was front page news when Roger Bannister broke the 4 minute mark, and now they're college runners that can do that. That's great. That's progress. We would expect that. If with sports science and technology, like sports weren't evolving, something would be really weird. The only thing I always feel like if you gave Martina, Chrissy, Roger, Rafa, Pete, Andre, whoever, if you gave them all of these advantages, they would adapt. So I hate it when people are like, I watched Chrissy and Martina and it looked like they were playing in slow motion.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you know what?
So
go ahead. Take the baton.
I'm sorry. Chrissy missed one ball a decade when it was the head of your racket was like as big as the hat on my head, and the gut you kind of had to like lay it off like Connor's Chrissy side spin, and she still didn't miss. You can miss me with the fucking looking backwards and saying, "Oh, they were hit." I'm sorry. The ball control, she could literally land it on a dime and not miss for days on end.
And what were we just talking about? We were talking about getting nervous and mentality and
so
you're psychology.
You're telling me you give her all the advantages of accuracy margin that is now created. She would never, ever, ever miss. And I'm sorry, Martina Navratilova, how athletic she is, miss me. She will figure it out. All the great players would figure it out. Well, Rafa couldn't go back and use wooden gut. Well, he didn't fucking have to. So obviously obviously that wasn't going to be the output. Like he would be an idiot if he was growing up and going, you know what? I should probably have strokes for wood rackets. Get out of here.
You see these articles from the 80s and they're like, Martina Navratilova used a supercomputer to look at the tendencies of her opponents. She was the first person to use analytics. You don't think Martina Navratilova in 2025 would use every possible advantage that she could get her hands on? So no, this is one of the great things about sports, though, right? They get better and better, and we think we've seen it, and then it gets eclipsed. But let's not do that at the expense of denigrating what came before it.
Great players would be great players. Maybe they would have won 2 slams less. Maybe one would have won 3 slams more. Great will be great. Will be great. Will be great. They would figure it out.
This is good. I actually have something at the end of the show that I wanted to ask you, Andy. That was about somebody answering a challenge that you had, and some of it is about, you talked about athletes and LeBron playing and all that, and we'll wait to the end of the show that I'll play a clip for you and hear what you have to say. But last question we got from...
I don't know what it is. I accept if it has anything to do with... If I have a tennis racket in my hand and they don't, I accept.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
I'll play it for you at the end of the show.